Good morning everyone, and welcome to another air dock how-to video. Today we're going to be installing an entire lift system in our slip right here so that you can see the lift process from start to finish. We're going to start by recommending that when you get your airlift that you open up all of the boxes, checking for any damage and that all the parts that are required are available to you. The best place to start is opening up your control box lid, and that will have not only your instructions but a parts list, troubleshooting guide, and all the other accessories you'll need for your lift. From there, you'll be ready to start. You can transport all of your goods down to your marina and make sure that you're ready for a good day. Alright, the typical air dock boat lift has a 3-chamber system consisting of 2 stern chambers and a bow chamber. You may also have spreaders that can separate your stern chambers by an extra distance for wider boats, or a protector mat for any boats that have tracking fins under the water. Today we're going to be installing a typical 3-chamber system for a small fishing boat. Today we're going to be installing a C model air dock with a B bow. To do this, the first step would be to lay out your stern chambers on your surface area where you plan on doing your assembly. We're going to be doing it on our 8-foot wide main dock. In order to do so, the first step is to line the chambers with their D-rings facing up. Next, you're going to fold the chamber tops back to expose the underside hinges. This will be the first place that you connect the chambers. Your next step will be to align the hinges together on each chamber. So you will fold the chambers up, aligning the hinges and inserting an acetal rod as the pin in the hinge. An easy way to get your rod to feed through the hinges is to lubricate the rod either with water or dish soap. Works very well. As you're feeding the rod in, you may need to manipulate the hinges to make sure that everything continues to line up as you're attaching the chambers. Once your rod is fully seated, you can tie it off using the strings at the end of the rod to the first hinge loop. Next, you'll take the small rod and insert it through the hinge loops from the opposite direction. At this point, the bottom of your chambers will be officially connected and you'll be ready to work on the tops. Now that you've got your bottom side of your chambers connected, the next will be to do your turtle head maneuver, which will be to extend the chambers out at the hinge loops and then reinsert the edge of the finishing weld back into the chamber. That will allow you to close the chamber top hinges and give you convenient access to aligning your rod into the hinge loops. On your chamber, you'll notice there will be a white string attached to your hinge loops. This is there to aid you in opening your chamber systems up and separating the top and bottom sections of the chamber. And that will help with doing the turtle head maneuver and getting the turtle head pushed back into the shell. Once your first rod is fully seated, you can tie it off similarly to the other side, and you'll continue the process of inverting the chambers all the way to the other side. Once complete, you'll be ready to insert the rod from the far side of the chambers. Now that we've successfully attached our stern chambers, we will flip them over so that the D-rings and brass flanges and elbows are on the bottom side. This will be the way it will be installed in your slip. Then you can flip the chambers over slightly, exposing the brass flange and nylon elbow for the next step, which will be to attach your hoses. To attach your hoses, you will first need a 5/16 inch nut driver or a flathead screwdriver and a pair of needle nose pliers, just in case your internal hoses have fallen inside the hose or the elbow. First, insert the yellow tube 1/4 to 1/2 inch into the clear tube that's protruding from the elbow. Next, slide the black hose over the barbed fitting and secure it with the hose clamp. You'll then repeat this step on the other chamber. Be sure to use your shorter hose for the side that will be closer to where you plan to mount your control box. Once the chambers are flipped over, take your 2 tie-off ropes, the shorter of the set of 4, and attach them to the stern D-rings on the backs of the chambers. Those will be used for tying off your air dock in the slip. The next step in our installation process will be to line the bow chamber up with the center of the stern chambers. In our situation, our bow chamber will be with the D-rings up and the hose fitting on top. This is to have it conveniently aligned with the control box location. In your situation, it may be different. You can also install it with the D-rings and hose fittings down, similarly to the stern chambers, if that is conveniently aligned to where you plan to mount your control box. After this, you will be attaching your hoses and ropes to the bow chambers, D-rings, and hose fitting. To connect the stern chambers, first tie a stopper knot at the end of one side of your shock cord. Once that's complete, you can begin lacing like a shoelace. Because the bow chambers are smaller than the stern chambers, you will start with the stern chamber first and then lace through to the bow chamber, alternating all the way across until you get to the other side of the chambers. Ensure that you pull these moderately tight as you're lacing. When you finish lacing your chambers, tie another secure stopper knot on the opposite side of the shock cord. At this point, you now have all of your chambers connected and your lift system is ready to be attached to your control box and installed in the water. Now that your lift is fully assembled, we will begin to attach the air hoses to the control box. Starting with your short stern chamber hose, insert the PVC restrictor pipe into the black hose. This will reduce the airflow and ensure your stern chambers lift evenly. Next, you will attach the yellow and green hoses by sliding the yellow inside the green and securing with a spring clamp. This will ensure that you have a sealed system for your internal chambers. Finally, you'll take the black hose and slide it over the barbed fittings. Secure with a hose clamp and repeat this step for the other two hoses. If your yellow hoses are too long or sticking out of the black hoses, you can trim them with scissors, being sure that they are still protruding from the black hose approximately 1 inch. The next step in your installation process is to inflate your internal guide chambers. Start by removing the white plug in your control box and replacing it with the blue tube assembly. Next, ensure all of your ball valves are in the closed position. Continue by attaching the blue tube to the push-pull valves on the back of the control box and pulling down gently to allow air to flow to your internal chambers when the blower is turned on. The internal guide chambers are located on the outside edges of each chamber. When the blower is turned on, the internal chambers will inflate. Follow your timing chart and your instructions for approximate timing. Your internal chambers should only be gently firm to the touch. They should not be fully inflated. Once all 4 of your internal chambers have been inflated, remove the blue tube assembly and reinsert the cap. When that's complete, you'll be ready to launch your air dock into the water. Once your air dock is launched in your slip, you want to make sure that it's centered and it leaves you plenty of room on either side to prevent the chambers from rubbing on the dock structure. Your air dock may have some trapped residual air in the chambers from shipping. It's not going to be a problem. Initially, you may have to remove some of that air by putting pressure on the chambers with the bow of your boat. That's why we recommend in the next step to pull your boat on by hand with the bow line. Your extra hose in the water can also be reorganized if they are too long. Most customers will coil them and zip time them securely. Extra hose is helpful if you have rises and falls in your water level. Once you have your air dock launched, it's now time to secure your control box. There are conveniently located divots on the control box base for screws. You can also bolt or strap the control box down. Securing your control box is important. We wouldn't want it to fall in the water. With the ball valves in your control box open, begin by pulling your boat with the bow line directly onto the center of the air dock system. This will begin to submerge the air dock. You'll see that as you pull, the air will flow to the outsides of the chambers. The boat will center on the air dock using the internal chambers. The bow chamber's internal chambers will stop the boat from pulling forward. When the boat is fully seated and centered, you'll be ready to lift your boat. If the internal chambers on either side are too inflated, it could grip the hull of the boat, causing it to stop coming on. On page 12 of your instruction guide are ways to remove air from your internal chambers. With the boat on the center of the lift and the ball valves open, turn on your system to begin inflation. the ball valve securely closed and the control system off, your boat is now lifted and will remain so until you're ready to use it the next time you come out. With your boat inflated on the air dock, when you're ready to go out, simply pull the plug in the top of the control box and open each ball valve. The weight of your boat will push the air out of the chambers, and in approximately 5 minutes your boat will be floating free of this lift system. You can leave the lift system deflated while you're out boating on the water each day, and when you come back it'll be ready for you to drive right back on. Happy boating, we'll see you on the water.